Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Administration Committee meeting to order. Clerk, could we have the roll call, please?
Eisenach here.
Stefanik here.
Perkins here.
Lewis here.
Marshall here.
Grady here.
Ropella here.
Nichols here. Everyone's present. Our first item this evening is to accept the acceptance of the Post Crescent Media as our official city newspaper for 2024 through 25. And Clerk Newman is right here to tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so this is just the annual acceptance of, we went out for bid for the official city newspaper, and we only got one bid, and it was for the Post Crescent. So with your recommendation, would love to have them listed as the official city newspaper.
Thank you. And the Post Crescent is our only option. With that, I will move to accept and forward to the Common Council the Post Crescent Media as the official city newspaper for 2024-2025. Is there a second? Motion by Alderman Nichols, seconded by Alderman Eisenach. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion carries on voice vote. Our next item for this evening is a development agreement by and between the City of Menasha and Sugar Maple Property Development, LLC, related to the residential development of vacant lands near Province Terrace and Manitowoc Road properties, and the parcels are listed out on your agenda. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Director Schrader to provide an explanation and summary of this development agreement, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chair. So this evening what we have in front of you is, as the Chair had stated, a development agreement between the City and Sugar Maple Property Development, LLC. The Redevelopment Authority of the City of Menasha has worked with Sugar Maple Property Development in the past. We did I believe 2 years ago, sell 10 residential single-family Lake Park Villa lots to them. That is going very well, so staff has been in continued conversations with them about how to work on that next project. We did have the property, again, the RDA-owned property, across the street from the fire station, kitty corner from the Stone Toad building out on Manitowoc Road on the east side. And we did discuss basically being RDA-owned property and the City of Menasha deferred assessment policy, that this might be another opportunity for them to basically capitalize on another investment property. The intent here is to bring single-family owner-occupied units within this concept. However, it is actually zero lot line type unit. So if you can imagine, it's a duplex, side-by-side duplex with the actual property line going from the front to the back of the property line. So you own your entire space. It's not a common space similar to like a condo or anything like that. So while it is attached, each unit would own its own property and be in charge of their maintenance and everything in that fashion. So basically the RDA and the Sugar Maple Property Development have executed a development agreement and land purchase agreement. So basically they're selling the property, and that is contingent upon this deferred assessment as well as the zoning being approved. So this development agreement is very similar to what we have seen in the past for subdivision growth, but again, because of the two development agreements, it's just slightly different, where we're kind of making sure we kind of cross these T's beforehand. So kind of summarized within the memo is that on or before September 1st, the developer shall finish the engineering and design of the plat, the infrastructure, and development of the property. There's an error in my memo. Before December 31st, 2024, developers shall submit and gain the necessary zoning approvals, which would include a preliminary plat, final plat, rezoning, as well as possibly looking at the comprehensive plan. So this plan, this area is called out for neighborhood mixed use. So looking at that and how that compares to this development, it is possible that we would look at that. That would be a public process. We would kind of have additional notifications in that aspect, but we have heard from residential units just south of here, the existing residential properties, and they are in favor of this type of development versus a commercial type of development. They feel like this would be better suited in their area. We go on to define the infrastructure and then kind of talk about the actual installation of infrastructure. So on or before June 1st of 2026, the developer shall cause the installation of the temporary asphalt. And on or before September 1st of 2025, they shall cause the initial installation of the infrastructure. So basically, if this gets approved, they're going to work on the engineering. We're going to get the approvals this year. Then they're going to start the actual infrastructure next year, have that completed by September 1. We're going to let that sit a frost cycle, and then by June 1st of 26, we would kind of come forward and do that temporary asphalt. We would pay up to $467,000 roughly in the cost of infrastructure, as kind of noted further in the development agreement. We kind of define the usage of the deferred assessment policy. We talk about the assessment amount per lot. So basically, upon the completion of the number of units, whatever that final dollar amount is would be divided amongst equally amongst the number of lots that we're ending up with. So again, because they're not fully through the design aspect of that, that's where we're getting some of the differential numbers from the final amount of lots that we're going to have. But it would be a minimum of 16. And they have showed plans that could hold up to 22 units. It discusses the payback schedule, so not less than 2 lots in 2026, 4 lots in 27 and 28, and then 6 lots in 2029 and 2030. And then the full deferred assessment would be due before December 31st of 2030. And it just, the development agreement kind of further discusses the normal policies and procedures. We do have a notice of understanding in this one as well as we've done with the past development agreements regarding the future assessment. There is not planned sidewalk within this. This is somewhat of a tight development, and because it's kind of, will be kind of looked at as more of a an estate or be designed as that. We are not anticipating any sidewalks to go through there, and because of the development constraints, in order to maximize development, that right away would be planned pretty close to the back of the curb, so there actually wouldn't be any space for that. So as that, I would turn it back over to the chair for any questions.
Thank you, Director Schrader. It sounds like Alderman Sevenick has a question.
So Sam, I wanted to address that issue of sidewalks. And I'm looking at the very far east end of that development, and they're pretty much apron to apron, except for some small gaps. Why couldn't we at least install those small areas with sidewalk? You know, if you look at it, they're very close. At least one side of the street with sidewalk, I would think would be appropriate.
So if you look at the concept plan within that, that is basically a 20-foot, so I think it's close to 33-foot back-to-back curb, and then 20-foot driveways, followed by the minimum 22-foot garage, and then the unit, the residential portion of the unit. So a vehicle for a standard parking lot, we're looking at 18 to 20 feet in that parking stall. So again, that from a garage door to the curb line is roughly about 20 feet, and that would be what would be needed to park a vehicle. You could golf wherever you want, right, Randy?
Thank you for that explanation. And This is I don't want to call it a standard agreement, but it is like standard operating procedure. We've seen a number of agreements like this over the years, and it's similar to all of those other agreements. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. I think there was very, very few minor changes that were made. One of those that I can recall off the top of my head is typically we're dealing with a larger subdivision, so we would come in within 80% of the completion of the project or 5 years. This development agreement actually calls out 100%, and the reason for that is they feel like they're going to kind of try to hammer this out. So why have us in there trying to redo the street while they're trying to build the houses, because it is a little bit of a tighter development. So that was really the only one that I can think of off the top of my head.
A couple things, Sam. I do notice those apartment or row houses 1, 2, 3, and 4 look a little bit different than the other ones. Could you explain that, or at least wait up? I'll ask one more question, please. And then also, we're looking for. We see the map on here, but do you have actually any photos of what these side-by-side houses would look like?
Yeah, so on the concept plan within Exhibit C or D, thank you. So with that, they do have the side-by-side duplexes. Again, those are owner-occupied. And this is just one of many concepts that they had. So there is a fourplex kind of called out on there. So that would be owner-occupied, kind of a fourplex situation. So it would be slightly different. But again, they have not landed on a final concept. We did have a lot more conversations at the RDA level, because once the RDA sells a property, again, they're able to have a little bit of those conversations about what actually gets developed and how it gets developed. So we did want, the first part of that is owner-occupied units, and the second part of that was, again, some quality owner-occupied units. So we did see several different concepts, from single-family ranches to two-story units. I can say that I believe most of them are anywhere from 1,600 to 1,900 square feet. As well as have a fair market or sale prices. They're shooting for around $350,000. Now, $350,000 does seem like a lot, but in today's market, a new single-family house, standalone single-family house, is going for just about $400,000. So they're trying to get a really aggressive in that market, and to be able to get a 1,900 square foot house at $350,000 is a pretty good price point within this market. And I think if they were able to do some units lower than that, I think that price potentially would come down. We did originally kind of look at the language within the development agreement that called out the $350,000. And again, because these markets are changing so quickly, they wanted to make sure and verify that that was a complete estimate. So we won't hold them to that if, again, they complete a house within 2 years and the house sells for $250,000 or $450,000, but they're going to kind of be really competitive in that market.
Sam, one more little question. So in other words, it's more of the garage in the front, house in the back, for the most part, correct?
Correct. No underground parking here.
Thank you for walking the microphone around the room, Director Schrader. With that, I'll make a motion to approve and forward to the council the development agreement by and between the City of Menasha and Sugar Maple Property Development, LLC, related to the residential development of vacant lands near Province Terrace and Manitowoc Road properties, and the parcels listed on your agenda. Is there a second? We have a motion by Alderman Nichols and a second by Alderman Lewis. Any other questions? Seeing none, we will take a roll call vote, and I will start the roll call. Nichols, aye.
Eisenach, aye.
Sevenik, aye.
Perkins, aye.
Lewis, aye.
Marshall, aye. Grady, aye.
Ropella, aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. And with that, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Lewis, seconded by? By Alderman Eisenach. All in favor signify by saying aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.